Welcome back. I'm here with Anna Farola. How are you today, Anna?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, thank you. How'd you like the movie?
It's great. Very much enjoyed seeing it a second time around. Yeah.
Well, good. Yeah, I know it's a lot to take in and understand, so.
It is. It's one of those movies that makes you think and leaves you with a lot more questions than answers.
Well, good. Well, I have a lot of questions for you. What can we expect from these filmmakers?
Well, this is a script adapted from a comic book series from the 1980s, and it was adapted into a screenplay by the Wachowski siblings. And they're known for The Matrix, so really visually spectacular dystopias. But it's directed by a first-time director, so he's got a slightly more toned-down aesthetic than they do.
Well, cool. So what genre is this movie? What would you consider it?
This is a dystopia, and a dystopia is a genre that imagines a future under some sort of totalitarian control. So it takes a contemporary problem that we might be facing in, say, the late 20th century or the early 21st century and exaggerates it and makes you say, okay, what if things get much worse? And it portrays it as very dark world, usually a lot of people in prison, but dystopias are basically about what if everything that could possibly happen that's bad happens.
Interesting. I've never heard of that. Dystopia? Cool. What political issue are they trying to put into perspective here?
They're trying to do a lot. They're trying to do some stuff with the war on terror. They're very interested in issues of persecution, contemporary persecution of gays, immigrants, Muslims. It takes to task fear-mongering pundits on television for kind of fear-mongering and hyping fear of groups that are under persecution. It's very critical of using religion to justify state violence and to justify persecution, using religion to justify torture, using religion to justify war. It also seems particularly angry at a press that just reports and doesn't ask hard questions to get information that citizens need to know. So there's a lot going on. And it's interested in the issue of using violence to achieve political means. And it's ambivalent about that because our protagonist does use violence in a vigilante manner, and we do sympathize with him. But I think it wants us to ask questions about, well, what if everyone feels persecuted and goes around and kills people in response? It doesn't want us to head in that direction, but it wants us to think about what happens if you're under a system of persecution that you can't change any other way.
It's definitely a movie that's supposed to make you think about a lot of different things, it sounds like.
It doesn't give you easy answers.
Cool. So what kind of cues do we get to interpret the man behind the mask?
He is Batman. He's supposed to be an idea, and I think that's part of the reason why we keep drawing attention to the mask. We're also supposed to think about the kinds of masks that we all wear every day for various purposes. But it gives us cues to his education. He quotes Shakespeare a lot. His living quarters are surrounded by works of art, so he's appreciates art. So it's looking at art to make political statements and also to inform political positions.
Well, cool. So the last question I have for you today is, what should we watch for?
Watch for V's.
Okay.
There are a lot of V's visually, a lot of listen for them in the speech, particularly visually. And to think about masks, not just the physical mask that V wears, but the symbolic mask that we see other characters have to wear in order to live under this totalitarian government.
So what do you think in the end, what do you think this movie wants from the audience?
Well, it kind of addresses us directly. It wants us to look in the mirror and to think about the world that we live in and how we encounter it and what we can do as individuals to avoid these kinds of systems of persecution taking power. It wants us to think about this on an individual level. It wants us to remember to recognize humanity and people who are different than us, and to think about that and how we make decisions as individuals, as communities, as nations.
So what do you think the most important thing is that this movie's trying to tell everyone? Like, what's the one thing you can kind of take from it?
I think it's really trying to say, wake up.
Yeah.
Wake up and take notice of the world around you, and know that there is something that you can do. It's also trying to entertain us,
Yeah.
but it wants us to wake up and pay attention to what's going on in the world, and be aware of systems that we may or may not be complicit with that harm people.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you about all this. So I hope everyone enjoys the movie. Thank you, Anna.
Thanks.